friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Shailene, and in today's video we're just gonna talk about the books that I read in June. Now, if you remember last month, I had a huge TBR, and I'm talking like 15 books. June was not a good month for me in many ways. My family's been dealing with a lot of health stuff, and things have been happening that are just crazy. So I've been quite busy. I haven't had a whole lot of time to read, and even when I did have time to read, I was too exhausted to read. I only read 6 books this month, which, I mean, it's still a pretty good number, but my goal each month is to read 8 to 10 books, which definitely did not happen. So yeah, I guess we should just jump right on into the video. Right now, I'm actually currently reading 2 books that I started reading in June. So the first one is When Women Ruled the World by Faruqi. I only have a quarter of this book left to read. Yeah, so far I'm really liking it. I'm learning plenty of new things. It's pretty good so far. So I'm currently reading that. I'm also currently reading an ebook. This is Hypatia, Her Life and Times by Faith L. Justice. Again, this is a book about Hypatia, the lady philosopher from Hellenistic times, and basically her life, or what we know of her life. So the first book that I read this month, which again was something that I started reading I think in May and then I finally finished in June, is Sick by Porochista Khakpour. Still probably pronouncing her name wrong. So this is a non-fiction, kind of biography of this here woman's life and her mysterious health issues that she had throughout much of her life. Some of it also involved drug addiction. And she basically finally finds out that she has Lyme disease, and a lot of the book is her kind of struggle with her health throughout the years. So I read this because I myself was Lyme disease. It's hard to rate nonfiction when it's based on someone's life. So I rated on a few things like, enjoyment, whether it resonated with me. I related to this book in a lot of ways. I feel like when you have a disease that someone else has, your struggles can be very similar, and sometimes it feels like when you're reading a memoir like this and you have a disease and the same person that you're reading has a disease as well, sometimes you feel like you're reading your own story, and that was kind of the case with this book, especially with the later half of the struggles with when she talks about going to doctors when she now knows she has Lyme disease. At times it was hard to read, and not because the writing was poor or it was boring or anything. It was just because so many of the struggles that she faced, I have faced as well. So it was kind of like, when I'm reading this, I'm reliving those memories, and it can be very difficult to do that. So yeah, it was difficult in that aspect, but once I was done reading the book, I truly felt like I was less alone in my struggles with Lyme. So the next book that I read was a book that's on my 19 books I wanted to read in 2019 list, and it's a book that I was very excited to read. So I read The Oster Sleep by Sonia Faruqi. So this is a book about a young mermaid who's an apothecary. Her younger brother gets sick. She goes off to find this here elixir. And then you also have the adoptive son of an oil tycoon who creates this here robot called Castor that can basically destroy anything and everything in the ocean. So he kind of gets turned into a merman and forced into this world, and he and the other mermaid, Coraline, they go on a quest to find the elixir because he wants to be turned back into a human. So, a lot of stuff takes place, a lot of stuff goes down. The main issue that I have with this book is it was very slowly paced. It was quite overly wordy, which is a weird critique for a book, but there was things in this that were explained that really probably didn't need to be explained. I didn't really connect with either main characters, Coraline or Izar, like I just didn't connect with either of them. It took too long to get from point A to point B, from point B to point C and whatnot. Like it just, there was too much going on in between and it was just too long. It's not even that long of a book. Like I think in print form this is like 300 pages, but it just, I just drug on and on and on, and I honestly thought about DNFing it, but because I had been wanting to read this book for so long, I didn't, and I kind of regret not doing that because not a whole lot happens. It wasn't that great. I didn't enjoy myself reading this all that much. Yeah, it was just pretty lackluster and I was quite disappointed. So I actually ended up rating this book a 3-star. It was okay. There were some aspects I liked, like I loved the world and I loved their different perspectives and their little animal friends, but like that's it. It really wasn't the book that I was hoping it would be. So I actually received 2 books this month from NetGalley to read. So the wonderful author of The Silent Woman, which I read a few months ago, I believe now, Terry Lynn Thomas, she reached out to me on Instagram after I had posted a review of The Silent Woman, and she offered to send me a free ebook of The Family Secret via NetGalley. So I read that this month. Super excited for it. It's the second in the series. We follow Kat Carlisle and Thomas as they move to Kat's hometown to escape the impending blitz. And so when Kat returns to her hometown, her best friend is kind of the main suspect in a murder investigation, and Kat sets out to prove that her friend did not commit a murder. And she uncovers a larger scheme that kind of involves the entire town, and it's a pretty darn good book. So absolutely love this book. It's just one of those books that you read and you just feel happy reading and you enjoy yourself while reading. You don't have to think of it critically. It's just a fun read. And sometimes I think you need those in books, especially when we do booktube and bookstagram and we're reading books sometimes not for enjoyment and, you know, we're just reading to kind of criticize books to a degree. So I ended up just really loving this. I absolutely love the mystery and kind of like the small town 1940s kind of vibes. The pacing and the plotting was just perfect. I love Kat as a character, and we were introduced to 2 more strong female characters that I really adore. And you know, it was a page turner. It kept me engaged from the get-go. I couldn't wait to sit down and read it because it's just, it was such a good book, and I'm happy, I'm so happy that the author was kind enough to send me a free copy because it was incredible. I really loved reading this. So I ended up giving this a 4.5 star. Probably one of my new favorite series. So the next book that I read in June was Daisy Jones and the Six by Jenkins Reid. I have a reading vlog up on this book where I give you all my thoughts, so I'll just keep this brief. I'll leave that video up in the cards or in the description. A few things about Daisy Jones and the Six that I liked or didn't like. I liked the interview kind of format storytelling. I liked that. I thought it was a very interesting aspect of the book, and honestly I could totally see why Jenkins Reid picked this route to tell the story because it worked in a wonderful way, and you just kind of fly through the book because it looks like a pretty big book. There's like 400, almost 400 pages, but like you fly through it. Now, Daisy Jones's character. I felt that Daisy Jones was an entitled, spoiled brat, and she kind of just expected to get whatever she wanted just because she was a pretty face and she was a girl and had a bit of money and whatnot. Like, yeah, she kind of had no hard work ethic, and that really irked me about her character. Of course, she's also a drug addict because, like, it's 70s. Who wasn't on drugs then? I just wasn't really too much of a fan of Daisy's character overall. In the end, she definitely redeemed herself and she hopefully became a better person. And then, of course, you get like the other members. You get the Six, the band. Billy Dunn is just a dictator when it comes to his band. But I really did like that he finally realized that he had to get clean for his family, and I really like that in this book. I also really like the female characters, Karen, and Camilla. They were probably my two favorite characters in the entire book. So, yeah. Overall, I liked the story. This is definitely a book I would reread multiple times over and over again because I do like it. It's not quite a favorite, but I did really enjoy it. So it's like a 4-star read. I'm very, very excited for when the TV show comes out that Reese Witherspoon is producing, because I just cannot wait to see who's going to play Daisy and who's going to play Billy and Karen and everyone else in the band, and like what the music is going to sound like. If they're probably going to produce music for the show. I wonder who's going to sing it. Like, I'm excited for it. Okay, so the next book that I read in June was actually my first ARC that I ever received from NetGalley, and I was so shocked that I actually was approved to read this. So I read Recursion by Blake Crouch. This has been a pretty mildly hyped thriller, and yeah, I read it, I loved it, and I loved it so much that I went out and I bought a physical copy of it when it finally came out, and I'm just so happy to have this because I'll explain why I love this book so much. Big warning though, if you read this book, there's a lot of suicide that happens in this book for many different reasons that I cannot spoil, but there are numerous suicides. So yeah, basically this follows Barry Sutton, an NYPD police officer who responds to a suicide call of this woman, Amboss Peters. And Amboss Peters actually has FMS, or false memory syndrome. The CDC thinks that this disease is an infectious disease and says something to Barry before she commits suicide, and Barry kind of goes down a rabbit hole of discovering what the heck is going on, and he gets himself in quite the situations and just things happen. So we also have Helena Smith, a pretty genius neuroscientist who is trying to map the memories of Alzheimer's patients like her mother, and she needs a grant to do this, but a mysterious millionaire by the name of Marcus Slade comes along, and he takes her onto his private oil rig turned into lab to help her achieve her wildest scientific dreams. They end up making this here memory chair that can map memories and save them into a computer file system kind of thing. And well, Marcus has nefarious purposes and pretty much all hell breaks loose. That's pretty much all I want to say, because things happen and it gets crazy, really crazy. I don't want to spoil it for you guys. This is something that you should definitely go in, knowing very little about, because there's just so many amazing twists and turns and terrifying twists and turns, but basically this book are fine. But in like the craziest way possible. Like, my brain was just mush after reading this because it's just so crazy. There's so many amazing twists and turns, and oh my god. It's a science fiction book, but the things that happen in here don't even feel like they could be science fiction. It feels like they could become reality one day, and it's freaking terrifying. But amazing. So amazing. I love this book. It's one of my new all-time favorite books. I probably won't shut up about this book on my channel now because it's amazing. It's truly amazing, and I cannot wait to read Dark Matter. So obviously this is a 5-star book. All-time favorite. Probably going to be one of my favorite books of the year. Like, it'll be probably a tie. I mean, the year's not over, but I doubt I'm going to find another book just as amazing. Dark Matter might surpass it. Who knows? We shall see when I read that in July. Okay, and the last book I read in June was Wenjack by Joeseph Boyden. This is the story about a young Ojibwe boy who runs away from his residential school and tries to make his way back home. This is a short story that's also based off of the true story of Charlie Wenjack, and it's sad. It is so sad. If you know the true story and what happens, then, well, you know how sad it is and you know how heartbreaking it is, and it just makes me so angry that the residential schools even happened and they went on for so long. It's just honestly disgusting. It's one of the worst points in Canadian history, and honestly, yeah, a lot of the story is very lyrical and prosy and beautifully written, and much of it is told kind of through the eyes of the animals that are watching Charlie walk through the forest on his way home. So it's a very unique perspective, and it's just so beautiful, and it's one that really makes you cry. I cried quite a few times. Yeah, I ended up rating this a 4-star. I really enjoyed it. I believe that this is a book that should definitely be part of the Canadian curriculum, because I don't believe that young Canadians are being taught enough about First Nations people here in Canada. So I would really love to see this become a part of the curriculum, because I think it's definitely an important part of Canadian history that needs to be told through a truthful lens, and I think this is the book that could really be helpful to Canadian students to learn about that part in history. So those were all of the 6 books that I read during June. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoy this video and my content. You can go ahead and follow me on Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter. I'll leave all those links in the description. And I guess I will probably see you guys soon. Bye.